there's no Blackwing Lair season the mastery guides out, but I figured I'd go through some of these VODs and kind of explain a bit about how the fights work, because some people in the guild were asking if there were any guides or anything. These are from Alliance perspective, but they're kind of applicable still. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm just going to like kind of maybe pause at certain parts to show things. I'll have it playing in the background muted, and I'll explain kind of like the important changes on the fights and stuff like that. We won't be going over Broodlord because there's really no video of that. We didn't get to test it on PDR. From what I understand, it's pretty easy still. And the Ebon Rock and Flamegore one I don't have up because that one I don't really know the exact strategy, so I don't want to like the officers have a strategy planned, but like I don't want to get you guys confused off the rip, right? I'll explain, I think, like very basically how I think it works, and then we'll save that for raid time explanation. There is a video on this channel though if you do want to watch it, this T Mugsy channel, so there's that. Yeah, I'll get right into things. I might throw this on YouTube and just try to timestamp it. So I'm just gonna mute this. Okay. So the start of the fight is like pretty much exactly the same. You just kill the dudes in the platform. Somebody gets control of the egg. I think this is how we're gonna have nature stand. If you see my cursor going around this mage here, because you can apparently click the orb down there. The main thing is that you really don't want anybody near him. You see how like nobody's really next to him, right? And just kind of like make it in your head that this part of the room is like off the limits, essentially. You don't want that at all. The only people who are probably gonna have a problem with it are like the people that are like clustered around here, right? Like you might accidentally wander there, but just try and really be mindful of that. And the reason is because when the big egg spawns the dragon, he's gonna do abilities on random raid members, and if you're here or something like that, like this guy's probably too close, and like a frost patch goes on him, it's gonna hit the person with the orb, and it's gonna interrupt the mind control, obviously. So the fight is pretty much exactly the same, and until this big egg comes into the fight, which I'll skip ahead a little bit. I don't think we have a view of the dragon here. Okay, so I'm going to just go over the abilities that I see. So if you come back here, you'll see this fire. It's like in a line. That's one of his abilities. He shoots the fire out in a line like that. Obviously, don't stand in it. On the PTR, it did very little damage. It might be tuned up for live, so we're not sure. You'll see this over here. This is like a golden aura that gets put on the ground, except it doesn't actually go on the ground. He casts it on mobs, so he will buff the mobs in the encounter. The dragon will, by not Razorgore, the other dragon, the one that hatched out the big egg. He'll empower other mobs in the fight, and you can see it because you can watch the dragon the whole time he's out, and all the abilities actually come from the dragon himself. So when he does the empowerment, you'll see these kind of like golden sparkles that go out, and they'll go into an ad. And when they go into an ad, they empower it. Now, when that ad's killed, or if the ad is like purged, essentially, it drops the puddle on the ground, and it basically just gives like a buff and gets like haste or something like that. So you kind of want to purge ads if you see it. I mean, it's not like the most important thing. Like it's not like, if an ad has this buff, it's gonna one-shot the tank or anything like that. But it's nice to get it on the ground faster, and then you don't have to worry about like ad prioritization, right? Like if one ad gets it and they have high HP and another ad's low, you don't have to swap to the big ad to kill it to get it to go down faster. You can just purge it. So ideally, yeah, purge these when you see them. If you don't get to them like immediately, not the end of the world, but you want to be keeping that in mind if you're a class that can purge, like priest or shaman. So that's that. You also don't want to be tanking any of the ads in this because they get the buff. It works both ways. This over here, this is like a void zone kind of, except not really because it just does taking damage. It's very light on the PTR again, so I don't really know how much damage is going to be on live, but just don't stand in it. And again, this comes out from the boss. You can actually see exactly where they're going to land if you follow the projectile. If you're like obviously as a melee, you can't really see this, but as a ranged, you can kind of like see things going out. So maybe I'll try and call that if I get in a good position where I can see the boss and see the raid, or some other range can try and call it if they notice that. I don't know. I think this is a frost trap from the thing because it's kind of big. I think this is the normal size hunter frost trap, but he will also spawn frost traps on people. When you get to like 5 stacks or something like that, I think it blocks you. Kind of like an entrapment type thing, except you're an actual ice block. They can't be dispelled. It doesn't do damage as far as the PTR is concerned, but obviously you don't want like half your raid block, so just try and move out when you see it. This fight is really just about keeping control of the ads. Like in the first fight, we're going to off-tank the boss somewhere. On PTR, we off-tanked it like in the doorway here. I don't know if that's going to change, but you off-tank it, you kill all the eggs, Razorgore comes out, then you have Razorgore and the ad. And, yeah, I don't know if this is, like, bugged or... Okay, looks like something happened here. But basically, like, so this is the doorway where you come in, right? So the mob will be tanked here, and Razorgore will be tanked probably in its normal spot over here. And then you have to kill the ad, because if you don't kill the dragon, and you kill Razorgore first, you actually wipe on the encounter. So you will just transition all DPS to this, kill it, and then you kill the boss. Now, the reason why you don't kill the boss or kill the dragon earlier while the ads are up is just because, like, we don't want to take a chance and get overwhelmed. It was kind of happening on the PTR, so, you know, just play it safe, kill the ad, and then this is a free loot fight. Just kill the boss. We might wipe on it, but don't get discouraged if we do. It's something that's going to go down pretty fast unless they made major changes from PTR. So that's Razorgore. Vael is next. So Vael is like very similar, except he starts at a higher HP value, as you can see, so you're not in execute range right away, so the fight is a little bit less of a meme. And the burning adrenaline stuff that comes out, basically, instead of, like, I believe how it worked in Classic was, like, in 15 seconds you would just die, right? Like, your max HP would decrease or something like that, and then you would die. In this, it's a little bit different. The buff does, like, a bunch of things to you. Like, it makes you take ticking fire damage on top of what Vael is doing. And then it also ticks for, like, a percentage of your health. I remember seeing when I moused over it. I don't know, like, everything that it does negatively to affect you, but suffice to say it's bad, right? Like obviously you get the benefits of having it, which I think is, like, increased cast speed. I don't think it's instant like it was in Classic. Or probably, so, like, you're going to be doing things faster, but you're taking a lot more damage. And the one thing about this fight, I think that's kind of important to keep in mind is that the tank might die. So it's kind of very important that we have people that are kind of, like, below that tank in threat, ready to take over the minute he drops. Like, it's very possible to get through the fight without him dying, but he definitely could die, so you want somebody to be able to take over and take aggro, snap him right back to the original position, so he doesn't cleave the whole raid or cleave the melee or do a flame breath. So we want to be watching, like, threat, and in particular, it's like the person who is high on threat needs to be watching their threat, so if they do pull threat or if the tank dies, they can get him right back in normal position. And the burning adrenaline, like I said, in normal Classic, it's 15 seconds, you're dead no matter what. In this, it kind of just keeps going. I assume, at some point it would reach like 99% of your damage is taken as a tick, so you would probably die, but it's basically hyperextended. So anybody that gets this buff can actually be kept up for a long time. And, like, obviously you kind of want to keep them up because they're going to be pumping because they get the buff portion of it, right, where they do essentially more damage or more healing or whatever. Now, the caveat to this, though, is that, like, they still explode if they die. So that's, like, really, really bad and probably going to cause wipes in this boss for sure. So what we're going to do is I think we're going to have the melee on this side. And then when you get the buff, you're going to go to the other side. And we're going to have either people on this side healing or, like, just people that are in range. I assume we might have to have some people on that side healing the people with the buff. But the idea is that, like, if you're a melee and you have the buff, we want you on the other side because if you do end up dying, we don't want you to, like, collateral either, like, the melee group, or if you get, like, knocked or something into the range, we don't want you to collateral the range. And the bomb position for the range, I believe, is going to be over here, kind of like the same as where it would be in normal Classic. it doesn't really matter. You just need to get out. Like, obviously, like, you can be here. You can be here. Just don't be in the raid. And be in range of people to heal you. And even if you, like, I would get out immediately and then just start blasting, because you could die at any time for, like, any reason, and you just don't want to kill the entire raid. So that's the main thing. It's just like a control fight. Might need a tank swap, because once the tank gets around 30, 45 stacks, he just kind of, like, dies. I don't know why I haven't played this, but you can kind of see. This guy's, like, raid frames are honest. Well, he's a caster, so it doesn't really matter, but they're kind of like dog shit because you can't see who's got the thing on them. Well, it's LVI, it's not dog shit, but he doesn't have it configured properly, is what I mean. Oh, maybe it's the X's. Oh, it's probably the marks. Yeah, so we can't really see much from this anyway. But it's basically just normal Vael, right? I don't know exactly how they're having people stand, but I think he, like, got out here at the end. Yeah, he's good. Yeah. Okay. So that's Vael. Very easy. This is a boss, like, again, we might wipe to, because there's so many little things that can go wrong, right? Like, the tank can die, he can turn and breath the raid, and it's very easy for the tank to die in this version of the fight. Somebody can blow up in the raid. Just don't get discouraged. This is a boss that will die as well, unless they tuned the shit out of it. Broodlord, again, don't have any data on that. One more. No? No. Firemaw is next, and basically, like, this is an old one. We don't have a current version of this for SOM, but it's basically the same fight, or we're going to do it the same way, where we door tank him. And the main mechanic of this fight is that you get a every time you take a tick of the fire damage that actually hits you and deals damage to your character, you get a lightning stack. Now this means that any type of absorb you have on you from, like, GFBP or a pre-shield, or, like, I don't know if a mage has, like, a fire ward or something like that, but it will prevent you from taking that lightning stack. And the white lightning stack, once it gets to 10, your character will essentially chain lightning, like, everyone else around them within a certain range. So it's basically kind of like Firemaw with a bomb mechanic, where the people have to get out, except that it's, you know, everybody's kind of going to be getting these stacks except for healers. Healers are going to be able to, as you can see right here, they're just, like, healing the tank on this side of the wall. These people would not be getting any stacks in the new Firemaw. And everything would pretty much just be as normal. I think the one thing about this that's a little bit misleading is that when we did this in PTR, the tank healers were actually on the opposite side of the wall, and the whole raid was here. So I'm going to explain it as if the whole raid was here, because it'd be easier. So let's say this is, like, the range DPS and healers, right? So this is the range DPS, or this is the healers, sorry. And they're not getting stacks because they can just heal the tank like this with the LOS. And then we have the range DPS that need, like, an angle to hit Firemaw, so they're going to be in damage range, right? So they're taking stacks. And then basically, like, when you hit 10, you just need to get the fuck out somewhere so you don't chain lightning. So if the range group is, like, here, then you need to fuck off to here, or here, or here. Preferably, you know, you're in range to be healed, but I don't think it one-shots you or anything like that. You will probably still be taking periodic damage from the buff, though. So, yeah, you just need to get out at 10 stacks and then come back in, essentially. It's very, very simple. I think they tuned down the damage of the chain lightning, but we still don't want to have it, you know, going off on people, right? It's just unnecessary. And then the tank healers on this side of the wall are going to be healing the tank, or healing the yeah, they're gonna be healing the tank. And then the other responsibility of, like, people here is, like, whoever has, I don't know if it's this group or if it would be this group in our raid, but whoever has LOS to, like, the tank that's taunting for buffets needs to be healing that tank, which we will know kind of like when we set up for the fight, right? So basic normal Firemaw, just with the get out mechanic. Yeah, you just have to watch your stacks and run away. Yeah, I'm not going to watch that because obviously this is the old one. Okay, so Chromaggus. This one, it looks kind of crazy, but it's not. It's really actually very simple what's going on here. Like the room just looks like it's covered in shit because a lot of shit comes out, but it's not a hard fight at all. So basically you can't LOS his breaths normally with the door method, right? And everything in the fight still happens as normal, and as you know, if you get hit by a breath in normal classic, they do a lot of damage. So how the fuck are you gonna kill this, right? Well, for some reason when you dispel the blue debuff, which is like the mana eating one, off of players, it basically drops an ice block on the ground, and you can actually use the ice block to LOS the breath. So that's essentially the entire strategy of this fight. Is you want ice blocks to go down, and you stand behind and LOS them when he does one of his 4 breaths. Now, the problem is that the blue stuff going out is not like a certainty, right? So it's not like you're going to have a blue buff available for every breath necessarily, which is why protection pots are kind of important on this fight. Because like sometimes you just get hurt by RNG, and you can probably absorb a couple of them hitting the full raid, but it's going to be hard if you get like 2 in a row, 3 in a row, you just might go So LOSing behind blocks whenever you can is going to be really important. Obviously, like you're kind of going to want to stagger the blocks being dispelled, but really the debuff doesn't last a ton of time, I don't think. Like, let's see if we can find a debuff.
Listen to me. So now is when you'd be dispelling everything. Like you can dispel everything right now.
Oh, it actually does, huh? I wonder if the blue one in particular. Oh, okay. Yeah, so it actually does. It lasts 9 minutes, so we can kind of like keep these. The problem is they do burn the target's mana, right? So I'm not sure if our strategy is really going to be like, okay, if you get this and you're like a DPS, just sorry, fuck you, you don't get to parse that week. And we're going to save you, right, in order to create a block for sure at a certain period of time. So I would assume the priority there would be, like, we have to get it off the healers, like, no matter what, like, relatively soon. And then if it's on, like, a DPS or something like that, then maybe they can be blocked at a later portion of the fight. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to handle it, but basically you want to see, like, okay, his breath is in 10 seconds. We're going to dispel a block now. You can stand behind the block. Dispelling the block does not create any sort of like it doesn't do damage to the person or anything, it just puts them in an ice block. I believe dispelling the other stuff does do damage to people though, that are near the person dispelled, if I remember correctly. So I don't think you want to have, like, you don't want to be dispelling the other debuffs while people are behind blocks. I'm 90% sure I hear somebody say that during this video. Again, I don't want to go through and watch the entire thing. But, because that will do damage and hurt people. So there's that. And then there's, like, you can see there's, like, fire on the ground. There's poison that goes in the ground. There's void damage that goes in the ground. So there's stuff kind of, like, going on the ground. The entire fight, but get a lot of ice blocks here. The one issue that I was seeing is that sometimes the ice blocks seem to not actually break the LOS for whatever reason, and they just get hit anyway. Hopefully that's fixed on live. It seems like it doesn't matter like where the block was, like, so people are thinking if it's close to him, that's going to be the problem, but also the people over here sometimes will get hit by the breath. So we don't really know what's up with that. I think, like, getting in front of the block quickly is probably a factor there. And people were saying that there was supposed to be a mechanic originally where you get a debuff when you go behind the block, and, like, that lets you know you're safe or unsafe, depending on, what it tells you. But I don't think that was ever implemented in PTR because I don't see it here at all in this video. Yeah, so basically, we're just going to be timing the ice blocks, ideally, to coincide with the breaths. So everybody, you can stand behind a block. and potentially maybe keeping a couple people for like reserve blocks in the case that we don't get a block at all for a bit, or we don't get a blue debuff, we can turn into a block and we can just kind of like, use it at the end of the fight. Because it's, when you think about it, if you have like 2 mages doing like not much damage on this fight, is it like really the end of the world if it's going to mean not eating 2 breaths, right? Probably not. But we'll see. We'll see how frequent things come out. It could be that they changed the like how often the blue debuffs come out, and you may not even have to do that. So we'll probably just pull it, see how it goes, dispelling normally, and then if it becomes a real issue, maybe we'll try and like really save some people's debuffs for critical times. I'll just kind of like adjust on the fly there. And basically you just zug them down. So that's Chromaggus. And then Nefarian. So Nefarian basically just has like different class calls. So we can kind of like watch this. They had a lot of ads. There's not going to be this many ads if you look here. It looks like this was like nerfed, I think. I think they killed this pre-nerf, which is kind of impressive. But that's why, like, I think they still have ads going into this part of the fight. So this is the second phase. I think like this must be the paladin call. That's actually looks super annoying. But basically there's an extra set of class calls, right? So every class has their original class call, and then it has another class call now. I think he does these 2 at a time, but what I don't know is I don't think that they have to be the same class call, right? So it's like it can be like a priest where their heals debuff you class call, and like a mage polymorph class call, or a warrior class call and the priest call. So it can be something like that. And so what are the new class calls? The ones I know of are the hunters. They have like a bow that pops up like here, like on the periphery, and it kind of like fires lasers into the center. They basically did 800 damage, which is like nothing. I don't know if that's going to be tuned up on live because they're basically a joke. They have a mages like arcane explosions, kind of like appear and do arcane explosion to people. It does like no damage again, so unless that's tuned up, it's probably going to be a joke. Priests apparently do like a mind flay. We didn't see it in ours, but like they'll mind flay a target, or I don't know if you'll mind flay a target, or if like I think a little skull comes up and it starts mind flaying a target, and then the idea is like somebody else just at some point wants to let you take a couple ticks, and then they'll run into the beam and they'll start taking ticks. Again, I don't really know how much damage that does, how much that'll even be necessary. I think for warlocks, there's another like infernal thing, right? I think infernal's the normal one, but I think there was like, oh no, sorry, it's not infernal. It's a bunch of AoE shadow bolts that come out, but they're super slow. Let's see if we can. Oh, they're these. Yeah, these are like super slow, as you can see. See if we can get some other ones here. This is the hunter bows. The fear, the ads. Oh, this must be the mind flay things, where people can like. It doesn't look like they give a fuck, really. This guy's just getting trained, so it probably does no damage. Let's see if we can find some more. I think that's normal, right, for the infernals. And then I think one of the main problem areas of this fight would just be that like see this polymorph, what we're gonna do and what we did in the PTR is we had all the mages go into the caves for polymorph. Because with everything else kind of like happening, it can be kind of a problem. Luckily, I think we're gonna have a lot of priests tonight, so that's good, because if you only have like, I think we had like 3 priests on PTR, and if they get polyed, it's really bad. because then, it's very easy if the person that's left doesn't react right away. All your dispellers are polyed. So yeah, mages are gonna fuck off to the caves when that comes out, and then, like I said, all the other calls still exist. There's a couple. Oh, druids have like a route that like goes across the ground, and I noticed that it actually can stack, so you can get hit by multiple. And while you're in the route, you're taking like ticking damage, and if you have like 3 of them on you, it can be kind of substantial. If you have like 1, it's not really a big deal, but if you get hit by 3 roots, you'll probably need some healing. So yeah, that's pretty much the fight. It's just like normal Nef, just with more class call stuff. So I think that honestly the hardest fights will probably be the dual drakes and just Ebonrock and Flamegore. And then the Chromaggus fight, especially if it's seemingly bugged like it was when we tested it. Just a quick word about the Ebonrock and Flamegore is that from what I've heard, it's the 4 horsemen like mechanic where each of the drakes puts like a mark on you. And I think how instead of like in the 4 horsemen, like where you drag something to some other spot, in this I think you have just tanks like swapping between sides, I think is how it is. And then like the actual caster groups or whatever and the melee will eventually swap, from how I understand it. I think that's where the shadow pods are going to come into play because the marks, I believe, are shadow damage. Like I don't want to talk too much about that one because I don't know exactly how we're going to execute that strat. But yeah, just so you're like a little bit prepared, there's going to be some switching, it seems like. Yeah. I think that one's going to be mostly on the tanks. Like the mechanics are not really complicated, but it's like 4 horsemen where like you have the strategy. Like once you figure out your strategy, it's easy, right? It's just executing it. But if you fuck up when you're executing it, you will wipe. So I think that's how that one's going to be. And yeah, and that pretty much covers all the bosses. So if you have any questions, obviously just message. You can message Coraline. I'll be on probably until raid. So message me with questions. You can message some of the other officers. And yeah, good luck tonight, guys. Hopefully we get some good loot and get a bunch of bosses down. If we don't full clear tonight, don't be discouraged. Like, a lot of people probably won't full clear tonight, I would assume. Especially on Horde, at least. So, yeah. We'll just go in there, get what we can down, and then we have Monday to clean up the rest if we need to. Maybe we kill it all tonight. Who knows? So, yeah, thanks for watching. Hope this helped a little bit. And see you later.